Hi, it's the 8th of November, and I've moved some stuff inside. It's getting a little cold out, so I'm trying to do some indoor things now. At this point, I'm disassembling the car seats, getting the upholstery off, taking the little foams out, trying to take lots of pictures as I go along, because I've been fortunate enough to find somebody local, an upholstery expert, auto upholstery, who's given me a quote on redoing the two seats, and he's quoted me $400 for each seat in leather. So that's great. So what I'm trying to do now is take everything apart in such a way that I can provide him the templates that he needs for cutting the pieces and doing the restoration, and not losing any of the little clips and such. I don't know how much of that he's going to need, how much he can supply himself. It's not the intention to make this concourse compliant or anything like that, but I still would like it to be as close to original as possible. So anyway, that's what I'm doing. I'm going to keep the camera rolling while I do this, and may or may not turn this into a video. And just a quick additional note that I found as I was taking apart the driver's side seat. It appears that there's at least 2 layers of foam in here. One which is adhered directly to that metal frame. We saw, you can kind of see it under there. Peel back bits of it. And then another layer of foam which is layered on top of that and held in place by the upholstery. This one just came off so smoothly, it's got to be that there's 2 separate layers there. It wasn't obvious in the other one. I don't know whether it was just because everything had adhered together with age or what it was, or whether whatever glue was holding these 2 layers together on this one has actually dissipated. So just thought I should note that. All right, after a couple hours of scraping and pulling and prodding, there's the seat frames. Now there's a bit of surface rust on them, not surprising, but the only structural or physical problem that I found is on the driver's side, and it's a very, very minor problem. I don't know if it's even visible here on the camera. If I can get it up close enough. Right here, there's a little bit of separation of that joint from the brace holding on the side piece. Maybe, yeah, you can see it a bit better there. So, depending on whether or not I can remove these bolts, which seem to be well rusted, I'll potentially either just tack weld that in as it is, or take these off and weld it a little bit better than just a quick tack weld. But there you go, that's project for the day. Step 1. Okay, I'm moving on to the next part of the seats. So what I've done is I've actually disassembled the sheet metal components. And you can see there's a pan that goes in there on one side like this, another pan over here on this side, and then there's another piece over here. Now all of this holds the foam pieces in place. So I've disassembled them and wire brushed everything down to bare metal, and I'm going to give it all a coat of rust converting primer. That stuff right there. A couple of reasons. One is, first of all, I don't want it to flash rust. The other is that there was some surface rust on here that has caused some pitting, and I've wire brushed as much as I can, but there's still, you can still see there's kind of evidence of that rust, so I don't want any bits of rust that I've left behind to expand and take over. I'm not even sure if rust works that way. Anyway, I'm going to get a coat of primer on this stuff. I'm hoping that I can do it successfully because it's starting to get a little bit cold. I don't have any heat in my workspace, my tent, not really a garage, so I'll do the best I can. Okay, there we go. Coat of the rust converting primer is on. Wish I could say that these have been completed perfectly, but there's lots of nooks and crannies, those little curved areas that are very difficult to get into, even with just a handheld wire brush. But it's still a bit exciting nonetheless, because this is actually the first thing that I'm doing on the car that's putting stuff back together as opposed to taking it apart. So a little bit of excitement there. Other thing I thought I'd mention is that I had talked about potentially needing to do some welding repair on one of these seat frames, but this is the spot that I've been thinking of. Again, see if you can see it over on this side. There seems to be a little bit of a gap here, but it doesn't look like it was ever welded there in the first place, so it's not necessarily something that needs to be repaired. So I think I'm just going to leave it. There was never any problem with the seat. This is, as I mentioned, the seats out of my old Mark I. There was never any problem with the seats per se, so I'm just going to go ahead and leave that as it is. And hope that this primer dries. As I mentioned, it's kind of chilly in here. I hear some sort of precipitation coming down outside, and I don't know if it's rain or if it's, heaven forbid, snow. Anyway, it's getting to that time of year. Thanks. Hey there. Okay, so today's the 14th of November, and this bit of an update on the progress that I'm making on the seat frames. I'm really kind of stretching my outdoor working season here because right now my outdoor digital thermometer told me it's about 11 degrees in sheltered areas, and I'm not sure how that's going to affect the durability of any kind of painting that I do right now. I'm sure it's not going to have a good effect, but I've been trying to do things like take the pieces indoors to warm up, and then bring them outside to apply the paint in the quote-unquote warmest part of the day. So, I mean, these are going to be covered with foam and leather and everything, so shouldn't be exposed to too much. So as long as the paint's not too bad. So this is what you see hanging here is the driver's seat. Yeah, the driver's seat. And then yesterday I started taking apart the passenger seat. So there's one of the two sides. There's the frame. Those have, I'm going to get the wire brush out and start cleaning those up today, and hopefully get all the surface rust and everything off them, and get at least a coat of rust converter on them. Interestingly, on the passenger seat, the two side panels, this is on the outside of the seat, so on the passenger seat it would be the right hand side. These two panels are actually spot welded here. On the other one, I don't know whether the spot weld came apart. It didn't even appear that there was a spot weld holding them together when I was taking the seat apart. So I'm not going to try and correct that. I'm just going to leave it as it is because I don't think that had any effect on the seat's rigidity or anything of that sort. So anyway, that's this update. I'm going to try and put a bit more paint on these, another coat, then more wire wheeling, and we'll see whether we can get some rust converter on that. Thanks. Okay, so there they are with the second coat of black. It's a flat black. It's actually an anti-rust black. So, well, I don't know whether that's going to make a difference or not, but and as I mentioned, I don't think I'm achieving perfect coverage. I don't know if you can see it in the light here. I should get out the handheld light, but there's a little bit of runs and not quite even, but I figured this is actually a good place to practice, since it will, after the upholsterer gets through with it, never be seen again. And if it is seen again in 50 years, I'll be long gone, so it really won't matter. Anyway, just another little thing I was just going to point out. I don't know if you can see it there. Maybe it's a little bit easier to see there. Yeah. What I did is all of the little bolts that held the pieces to the frame, I've actually put those bolts in so that I don't have to worry about trying to chase out those holes after being painted. Also serves the effect of painting the bolt heads, though I don't know how much of that will survive after I screw the whole thing back together. But just a little thing I thought might be worth pointing out. Thanks. Okay, so end of the day, here's the passenger seat frame, wire wheeled down to as clean as I can get it, and the side pieces. This is the one I mentioned that's got the spot welds there to hold the back and the side piece together. And then this is the center side. So all of them have been sprayed up with some of the rust converting primer. And as I mentioned earlier, it's still on the cool side. It's still about 11 degrees. So best I can do, unfortunately, because my garage is really just a glorified tent with no heat. So I'll see how this sets up overnight. Didn't do too bad last time. There. Okay. A little cold out today, so I'm in the basement, and I'm going to reassemble this seat frame prior to taking it to my upholstery guy. So, and I'll let the video run and edit out any of my mistakes. So, here we go. In there just to keep this clip from swiveling. And there we go. One seat. Driver's side. The other one's still just getting painted up. We'll see how that goes.